Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to give some more speaking feedback. Yeah, let's jump straight into it. Sorry, I should go back a little bit. Tell me your full name.
Well, my full name is Jotirmoy. You may call me Jotirmoy.
Okay, thank you. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Do you work or do you study?
Actually, I am a student. Recently,
Often see this with candidates from Bangladesh. They often use the word actually, and sometimes you feel like, why is that word being used? Now, in the UK, a lot of people use the word basically in a similar way. You know, you ask them any questions, say basically, basically, basically. I guess, is this overuse of the word actually going to kill your performance? No, but if I was a candidate, I would try to look at some of my fingerprint language and try to avoid using it. But okay.
completed my bachelor degree. Now I'm looking for job.
A bit of variety in tenses. Now I'm looking for a job. Present continuous for present moment. Nice. And what did you study at university? I could say bachelor's degree is better or looking for a job is better. There are minor inaccuracies, but okay.
Okay, my bachelor degree is in sociology, and
Yeah, my bachelor's degree was in that. Verb to be really is, necessary. English is one of those languages where we need verbs in all of our clauses. All of our clauses require verbs, and when we don't have verbs, that becomes a real critical systematic error. My degree in sociology isn't a clause. My degree was in sociology is a clause.
I am the university is Green University of Bangladesh.
And why did you decide to study sociology?
Because this is very familiar to me because my recent my background is
You can see a little bit of disfluency, repair work.
arts, and I like to sociology. And in sociology,
I like two sociology is a bit strange.
they also learn how to human behave and how the society work. And I like to know the research field, so I want to explore the research field. That's why I chose this subject.
Okay, some nice vocab there. Right? I want to explore the research field. All of that's good vocab. Candidate, is a bit of a slow speaker. Lots of grammatical inaccuracies, but vocab is strong. And what was the most difficult thing about this course?
So this course is very not so difficult because
Okay, this is one thing that I don't like as an examiner, that when there's a question, what did you find difficult about the course? Sometimes candidates avoid giving answers, right? They say, oh, the course wasn't difficult. Sure, the course might not have been difficult, but the question asks you to talk about any difficulties that were in the course. Now, it's very unlikely that there were no difficulties at all, right? Like, take my job as one of my jobs, for example, as a materials designer. Now, I love material design, and in general, I don't find it difficult. But in a question, what do you find difficult about your job? I might then say something like, well, sometimes it can be difficult if you've had a student for a very, very, very long time and you feel like you've covered most things with them. Sometimes it can be difficult to come up with new ideas for this for the student, right? And so even though it's something that's very easy for me, I can still think of some difficulties and I can answer the question. And it really, not with this candidate, I just mean in general, when candidates avoid questions, what do you do in your free time? Oh, I don't have any free time. Okay, what music do you like listening to? I don't listen to music. I find this avoidance strategy a little bit frustrating. Again, not with this candidate, just in general. So just be careful. If the question is talk what was difficult about, or what were some difficulties in this course, just think of some of those difficulties and just explain them instead of saying, "Oh, the course wasn't difficult." So be careful not to avoid these to avoid answering the questions directly, because some examiners might see it as like a case where you don't have the vocab or you don't have the fluency to deal with the question. But this isn't a big deal for you right now.
It is study on human, so we know human
It is study on human. Again, there's no consistency or no reliability with grammar, unfortunately.
are live with our society, and the difficult is the research field, I think, because in research there are so many things to do, like literature review, like field work, and
Again, literature review, fieldwork. Candidates vocab is great.
other material we have to conclude. So that's why I think the research field is
There's cohesion there, and that's why the research field is.
kind of difficult to explain.
Let's talk about free time now. Do you have a lot of free time at the moment?
Uh, yes, actually, I recently completed my bachelor degree. Now I am free and I am uh, doing my IELTS preparation. That's why whole day I just study, and sometimes I go to park to spend my free time, and which give me
Which gives me.
remove my monotonous life and make me fresh.
Okay, make me fresh. Sounds a little bit strange, like refreshes me, or maybe it's better, but okay. And do you prefer spending your free time alone or with other people?
Oh, it's depend on situation.
It's depend. We hear this so many times, right, from so many candidates. It's depend on. Really, it should be it depends on, but okay, the meaning is clear. But again, the candidate doesn't have any control over even basic grammatical structures, and that will certainly hurt him in the grammar criterion.
If my friend are available to meet with me, that time I meet with them.
Okay, an attempt at some conditional structure.
And on the other side, I like to walk alone and pass my time alone.
Pronunciation is mechanical. I like to walk alone and pass my time. Now, English is something that we call a stress timed language, which means we have things like sentence stress. Some languages are what we call syllable timed language. Like if you listen to French people, they say like je suis fatigué, je suis fatigué. French is an example of a stress timed, sorry, of a syllable timed language. Now, sometimes I don't know about Bengali as a language. I don't know if it's stress timed or syllable timed, but sometimes if you're a candidate whose first language is a stress timed language, I'm going to keep getting this wrong. If you're a candidate whose first language is a syllable timed language, then you might end up speaking English like this too, where you don't use the correct intonation, you don't use the correct sentence stress, you just pronounce each syllable like this. And candidate does have that problem where he is using like syllable timed instead of stress timed patterns. But okay, that's linguistic jargon. Don't worry about it. Let's keep going. Let's talk about colors now. Do you have a favorite color?
Yes, I have. My favorite color is red because it is very gorgeous color, and
Okay, very gorgeous color. I don't know what that means. It's a very gorgeous color. Explaining why you like it is better than just describing it as gorgeous. But okay, gorgeous is a nice word, right? We don't really use very gorgeous because gorgeous is a strong adjective. We don't usually use very with those strong adjectives, so we don't say like very excellent. We can say really excellent or absolutely excellent. We don't say very freezing. We say really freezing or absolutely freezing. And similarly, we don't say very gorgeous. We say absolutely gorgeous or really gorgeous. So there's a small mistake in there too. But again, it's not enough to say, oh yeah, I like red. Why? Because it's gorgeous. Okay, but what do you like about a color? I know it's always difficult to explain what you like about something, especially a color, but maybe it reminds you of a certain place or a certain person, or maybe it's a lucky color or something like this.
it focus from the far away.
And are there any colors that you don't like very much?
I don't like the black color because it is dark and I am scared of darkness.
Cool. I'm scared is better, but darkness again, good, showing good vocab here, good word building. The use of the suffix nus with dark to create a noun. This is good skill. A lot of people, I think, in the comment section gave some scores of like 4.5 or 5, and I think that's just because the candidate is a slow speaker and makes a lot of grammar mistakes. But we should remember that there are 4 criteria, not 1. Mhm.
So that's why I don't like black colors.
And the structure of his answers is really good too. It's slow getting out, but the way that he structures and sequences his sentences, all good stuff. And do you prefer wearing clothes with light or dark colors?
I prefer light color
Why?
because I told you that I love a gorgeous color, and
Yeah, I don't know about that answer.
do those color also fit with me, and I
Maybe these colors suit me rather than fit with me. These colors suit me.
feel very comfortable with these colors. So this is the one reason.
And are there any colors that you associate with your country?
Associate country, our country is like evergreen country, so greener is uh, de- uh, greener is to deliver to our country, and most of
Again, some grammatical mistakes here cause confusion in the listener. I can't quite get. I mean, I got that his country is known as the evergreen country, but then there are some mistakes there, and I just can't work out the
the
idea.
part you see the green uh, plant of tree, and you can enjoy the nature. So that's why I think green is very famous in our country.
Okay, thank you. All right, so some comments on part 1. The most immediately noticeable thing is that the candidate's speech is slow. The fluency is quite weak, but the coherence is generally quite good. The way the candidate structures the argument, sorry, not the arguments, structures his answers are pretty good. Usually he's showing a willingness to speak at length. There was only that one question about like light colored clothes where he didn't offer development. Apart from that, he offers reasons and he summarizes well at the end. Yeah, so he extends his answers very well, but the fluency, the language doesn't come out in a natural flow. There are a lot of like self corrections and hesitations and reformulations, all of that stuff. The pronunciation in general is clear. I'm just a bit worried about the real lack of intonation or the real lack of stress timing. That's a bit of a problem. Vocab is strong though. The candidate really does demonstrate like really good vocab. We'll see how he does in the rest of the test. Grammar is also a huge problem here. The candidate, has mistakes. I think I counted one sentence, maybe two short sentences that didn't have a mistake. Apart from that, there were mistakes in every single sentence. So, you know, that's going to be an issue. But let's get to part 2, where the candidate needs to describe a game that he enjoyed playing as a child. Cool. Let's see how he does. For your preparation time, to remind you, you will have between 1 and 2 minutes to give your talk, and I will let you know when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
In my entire life, I experienced so many games like football, cricket, and another game like mobile games. So among them, I would like to talk about a game which I really prefer and love to play. To begin with, that game is football.
Cool. So we have a nice introduction. Perhaps the introduction is a little bit long, but it does set the scene nicely. He has a wide scope and then he's focusing in on football.
And I am crazy about this
Cool. Gained good vocab. I'm crazy about this sport.
sports because I am love it from my childhood.
I am love it. I am love it from my childhood. I have loved it since my childhood.
And I am growing up to play football. And
Again, I'm growing up right now. You're growing up, or I grew up. Maybe I grew up playing football, not I am growing up to play football. So again, I'm not going to mention any more mistakes with grammar. What I can say, this isn't going to get better, and it's probably not going to get worse. But the point about grammar is that the candidate does not have real control of even basic grammar, and so that's a problem. But I'm not going to talk more about grammar.
it was best uh, play best sport in our country, and most of the people love this football. So if I say uh, how often I play this
Cool. I love that he's referencing the questions here. The little, you should say, if I say how often I played this is good. This is good signposting.
game, I usually say it. I usually play football after the school.
Cool, but you say you usually play football after school. That's present time. Now, maybe in the past I usually played, but that kind of sounds when you played it, right? I played football after school. How often is more like, we're talking a couple of times a week, every day after school, or what?
Period with my friends and also with my neighbors, because it is a enjoyable play where
Friends, neighbors.
we can express our feelings,
Express our feelings. Pronunciation isn't perfect, but again, really nice collocation.
and it is the best way to connect with each other.
This is good grammar. It's the best way to connect, right? We get some superlative plus an infinitive, the best way to connect. Good.
Express our daily conversation, and it also boosts our strength uh, and
Not sure it boosts our something. I don't know.
most of the time uh, uh, how
Oh,
often I
sorry.
play best way to connect with each other, express our daily conversation, and it also boosts our strength
Boosts our strength. That's what he's saying.
uh, and most of the time uh, whenever we get free time we play this game. So there are a number of reasons why I enjoy these games. Firstly, it has been very energetic and helpful to my body. Whenever I play this game,
Cool. Whenever I play this game, that's really good. Subordinating. Okay,
it
thank
make
you.
me
Thank you. All right, so thoughts on part two. Again, grammar is a weakness, slow speaking is a weakness, and again, sequencing of ideas is very strong, and the vocab is very strong. Pronunciation, I don't know, generally the candidate is clear, right? I know he speaks slowly. Sometimes there are one or two words that go missing, but maybe, yeah, I don't know if there is enough intonation or if there's enough appropriate chunking. I don't know. Initially, I thought the candidate's pronunciation is probably just about enough for a 6. But listening back, I think I don't know. Maybe it's not quite there at the 6. But yeah, let's get into part 3 and see how he does here. All right. So you've been talking about a game that you enjoyed playing as a child. Let's talk about games now, especially with children. Why is it good for children to play games with other children?
sorry, can you repeat again?
Why is it good for children to play games with other children?
Yes, in my
Yes.
opinion, there are a lot of advantages of playing games. Firstly, it is
Cool. Note a lot of advantages. Firstly, again, this is really good sequencing.
Develop their mindset
Develop their mindset. Good.
and build to stay connect with other people. If the pupil not
Now he's backing it up with a hypothetical example.
play games, they cannot able to socialize themselves. So it is very
Socialize, again, we need to socialize with somebody, but okay.
important to play with each other, know the culture.
Yeah, with each other. That with isn't coming out, and potentially that causes a strain. So I think, yeah, I can say at times the pronunciation of the candidate puts a strain on the listener.
Know the values and how to interact with other self, and also it
Again, interact with others, nice.
is very important to develop their leadership skill.
To develop their leadership skills. Again, vocab is very natural here. It's topic related. I mean, the candidate it benefits from having studied sociology, I think, which is social science. Usually, candidates who study social sciences tend to construct their answers a little bit better than candidates who study, for example, hard sciences or theoretical stuff like mathematics. But you can see that that education that he's had in sociology is really helping him to to put ideas forward. Even though the language is slow, pronunciation has problems, grammatically there are severe weaknesses, but the structuring of the arguments and the vocab that he uses is really, really good quality stuff.
I think
And do you think it's also good for children to play with toys on their own too?
especially it's depend on the person, because in our country the toy plays the women and the girls,
The toy plays the woman. Really? Women and girls play with the toys, not the toy plays the woman.
and others games play the boys.
Okay, but this is, you're describing reality now, right? The reality in your country is that boys play games with other people and girls play with toys individually. But the question isn't what is the situation? The question is it good for children for their development to play with these toys individually? If so, why? If not, why not?
So which are there, the girls are more prefer to play toys than boys.
Mhm. So I'm not satisfied with the answer. So I decide to kind of follow up the question. Do you think it's important for boys to be able to play with toys on their own too? Not and again, is it important for them, right? This isn't can you describe whether boys play with toys or not. The question is, do you think it's important for boys to be able to, play with those toys individually? And why might it be? Well, maybe it helps them to become more reliant on themselves, or maybe it helps to improve their imagination and creativity, or something like this. If not, you might think, it might make them like too selfish or too self-centered or something like that, to spend time on your own too much. You could get lonely. That's the thing. We're asking you to evaluate, not to describe the reality of the situation, but to evaluate if something is a good idea or not. That's, very often in part three, you have to go deeper than simply describing reality. Just the goals.
Uh, I think it is right now. It is not a big issue to play toys, but in in older age, it is very difficult to see uh, boys are playing toys, and um, the parents also forbid boys to play toys
Okay, but again, you're describing reality, but you're not quite dealing with the question here.
because it is the sports of girls. So why you play this uh, play with toys? So it's don't go with you. You go to another play like cricket, football, and like that's it.
Okay, and what kind of games do you think are more suitable for adults?
Okay, I think for adults, I prefer also football or cricket.
Okay, I prefer football or cricket. That's fine. But in part three, remember, we don't want to speak about ourselves too much, right? The purpose of part three is to speak about global things. So, you are involved in this. We want your opinion. What sports, or rather, what games do you think are appropriate for adults? It's not what games do you like, what games do you prefer. It's what games are more appropriate for adults in comparison with for children.
because this is more popular in our country.
Again, you're just describing that, football and cricket are popular in your country. Fine. But what are, the elements of a game that make it more suitable for an adult instead of for a child?
And most of the people agree with this concept to play football because it is important to develop our strength, and it also help our physically.
It helps us physically, or it helps our physical, I don't know, side. It helps our physical side, perhaps.
So whenever they get chance, they play some football
And again, Candid is just describing reality, but not evaluating.
to boost their energy. And I also play football.
Let's move on now and talk about computer games. Why do some people love playing computer games?
Well, there are several reasons for it.
Again, starts broad. There are several reasons for it.
Computer game is now quite popular in modern days because in our country the land is short, so
The land is short? Don't know what that means.
the children or the pupil more used to play computer games, and it is right now on my hand. After the
It is right now on my hand. Again, I just don't know what that means. Sorry.
revolution of internet, it will very easy to play,
Called revolution or the evolution of the internet. Nice.
and they can spend their time and they can communicate with uh,
Sure, but what is it? What is it about computer games that people like doing?
with in game. So this is very popular.
And
So
how do you?
that's
Yeah, I'm not quite satisfied. Like I'm looking for. I couldn't tell you, right? If I if somebody asked me like, okay, why does this guy think that computer why does this guy think that so many people likes computer games, I wouldn't be able to give reasons apart from it's easier to play them with the evolution of the internet, but we don't get into what it is about games that is so attractive for people. We're looking for the nice storylines, maybe the communicative element that you can play games online with your friends. Maybe there's this competitive element. Everybody loves to win. These type of things that we had in sport, but now we have them like in a virtual thing. Maybe you talk about the bright colors or the sounds or the interesting characters or the clothes that you have or whatever it is. But we want to get to some of those elements of the computer games that are so attractive for people, and we don't quite get there. How do you think computer games might change in the future?
oh, I think computer games will change in future. Not so,
Again, I think computer games will change in future, not so.
because right now there has some bad effect in our society.
Okay, but you're not asked to evaluate whether they're good or bad. The question is, how will they change in the future? Now, we know everything changes, right? Everything changes all the time. Make some predictions about how computer games might change. That's what's required here.
I can see in my village most of the student not uh, uh, do their classes. They
Okay, but that what the pupils or students in your village do or don't do isn't relevant to the question how computer games will change.
just play and addicted to it. So it has the bad side of computer games.
Cool. There are bad sides, of course. There are good sides and bad sides. We know. But the question is, how will computer games change in the future? Okay, thank you. That is the end of the test. All right, so I want to say first of all that the candidate was a lot of fun. I enjoyed speaking to the candidate. Smart guy, thoughtful guy. He knows some of his weaknesses. And interesting, I always ask candidates, like, what do you think went badly or what do you think went well in the test? And I often ask the candidates, like, what are some of your strengths or weaknesses as an English speaker? Some candidates have absolutely no idea. Some candidates say things like, oh, yeah, I think my grammar is very strong and my vocab is great, but my pronunciation is terrible. And you find out that actually it's the opposite, that the pronunciation is great, but the vocab and the grammar is weak or something. But this candidate really, he has a lot of awareness. He knows. The first thing he said was, my speech is too slow. And he said, I make too many grammar mistakes. The candidate knows this about himself, which is really, really good. I did a little bit of, just checking the candidate's grammar because sometimes people know grammar in their head, right? They know the theory, but when they speak, they make these type of mistakes. And so sometimes with candidates, I just show some of the mistakes, some of the most basic mistakes, and say like, okay, can you see that this is a mistake? Now, some candidates are like, yeah, of course, I like, you like, but he likes. I can't believe I made that mistake. With this candidate, I showed some of the grammatical mistakes that he made, and he really didn't know how to correct them. And that, again, that's not a judgment. It doesn't mean the candidate is a bad person or his English is awful or anything like that. It just shows that the holes in his knowledge of grammar, they go deeper than just slips, right? These are systematic errors, these are repeated errors because the candidate doesn't have that foundational knowledge of grammar. But okay, let's get into. Oh yeah, but I just want to reiterate: the candidate is a really, really lovely guy and an interesting person to speak to. But let's get into some scores here. So fluency and coherence. Originally I wanted to award the 6 for this, but I'm going to pull it down to 5 just because in part 3 it was a bit worse. So in part 1, I like how you extended your answers. You were a little slow, but at least your answers were full and on topic. Unfortunately, many of your answers in part 3 went off topic and you continued to speak slowly, right? So because I thought originally like, oh yeah, the coherence is actually really high and the fluency is really low, and maybe we'll meet somewhere in the middle of like a 6. But just because of those problems with coherence, not answering those questions directly in part 3, this is going to pull your score down to 5 for fluency and coherence. It might shock you a little bit for lexical resource, but I'm actually going to award the 7. So you have some mistakes with prepositions, but you do demonstrate a really wide range of vocab and can speak about different topics with a high level of precision. Sometimes it's a little bit lacking. You say like red is gorgeous, and it's like, okay. But then when you talk about like playing games helps kids to develop their leadership skills and express their feelings, that's really, really good level vocab. And I think you might have enough in there for that 7 for lexical resource. Unfortunately, now we get to the weakest part. Originally, I thought 5 because I think, at least the word order is consistently right. But listening back, I see also mistakes with word order, like toys play children or toys play women. It's like, we're even getting word order wrong, and we have some clauses without any verbs at all. And so, unfortunately, grammatical range and accuracy, I'm giving a 4 for this. So I only counted 1 or 2 short sentences without any mistakes. There are foundational mistakes in almost every clause. I mentioned to the candidate later, get those verb forms right. Don't try to learn any difficult grammar, just elementary pre-intermediate grammar, present simple, present continuous, past simple, future with will, future with be going to, maybe a little bit of modal verbs, a little bit of gerunds and infinitives, just the most foundational stuff, because it's just not there. The candidate does show, some range of sentences, like with whenever clauses or if clauses, but when there are so many critical errors and when so many of those errors do lead to some confusion, unfortunately, yeah, it's at that low intermediate level, maybe high, maybe even I in the IELTS, I would say it's low intermediate, maybe, but in the world of ESL, like thinking of the Cambridge type of stuff, I would say it's even lower at like elementary level grammar. I really think the candidate has elementary level grammar, like A1, A2 grammar. But okay, for IELTS, I think 4. Pronunciation, again, I wanted to give 6, but I am probably going to pull it down to 5. So in most of the test, it was fairly easy to understand you. However, a few stretches of speech were difficult to understand because of some mispronunciations. Critically, there is very little sentence stress and intonation in your speech. So, yeah, as I mentioned, a lot of the speaking is mechanical like this, and please don't think that I'm trying to make fun of you here. I'm just explaining what mechanical means, because if I use the word mechanical, not everybody knows what it means, so I have to explain it like this, where every syllable is pronounced separately, right? And we can't have that sustained mechanical speech over the whole test. But most importantly, I think it was, generally easy enough to understand you without trying too hard. So I'm giving 5 for this, but this gives us a score of 5 5 5546 would be 5. 5547 is 5.25. So overall, it's a little bit lower. Originally, I thought maybe 5.56 even at my first listen, but overall we get the 5.5, which 5.25, which comes down to 5.0. Now, an examiner might give him 5 for grammatical range and accuracy. An examiner might even give him 6 for pronunciation. It's possible. I think fluency and coherence will be 5, and I think, yeah. So, could the candidate possibly get 5.5 or even 6.0 in the speaking test? Absolutely. But for me, this performance was 5.0. Again, I want to say the candidate was really nice. And I know the last time I gave a candidate from Bangladesh a low score, some people wrote some comments, some people deleted their comments, but I got some stuff like, please avoid this channel, or this examiner doesn't like people from Bangladesh, or something like that. I found that quite hurtful, to be honest. I thought that was a little bit unfair. I always try to be honest with my scoring. I don't want to lie. I don't want to, make the score higher if I like the candidate or lower if I don't like the candidate. I always try to give honest scores. Yeah, always. So yeah, I hope you accept these scores. And like I say to most candidates, the score that I give you, it's not the most important thing. The feedback that I give you, or just the ability to watch yourself doing the test back and getting your own feedback, that's kind of an even more useful thing. But anyway, I guess I will leave it there. So yeah, for me, 5.0, the higher end of intermediate. candidate does feel overall like a B1 candidate. Just thinking of impression, feels like a B1 candidate, but with really, really good vocabulary. So keep it up with the vocab. Yeah. If you have any comments or thoughts on my marking, please do let me know. I'm always open for constructive criticism. If people disagree with the marks, if people say something like, I felt like his fluency in part one was really good, like notice how he did this, this, and this, and so I think that he deserves a higher score for that. That's type of criticism that I really welcome and enjoy. I don't like criticism like this examiner doesn't like people from Bangladesh, avoid this channel, or I hope I don't get this examiner in my real test. I feel that's a little bit rude and a little bit unfair, but this is the internet, people. This is the internet. It happens. Anyway, I've gone off topic. Sorry, bad fluency and coherence for me. If you would like a free IELTS practice speaking test, or if you would like me to check your IELTS writing, you can request this on my Telegram channel, Expert Examiner. A link to this channel is given in the description below. But I will leave it there for now. Have a wonderful day and see you all soon. Bye bye.